Scott just made the point just
Jefferson used to be a lot more secure, not just.
Well, the Drudge Report headline sent shivers down my spine. It said, "Squad of trained monkeys to clear skies." Now, as a pilot, my first thought was that a number of TFRs, those would be temporary flight restrictions, was being set up across the nation as the former Secretary of State was going to begin campaigning in earnest. I certainly think that was a natural enough reaction. However, the truth was even more terrifying because, in point of fact, it is China that is enlisting squads of trained monkeys to clear the skies during their World War II memorial parade. According to Chinese Air Force spokesman Wang Mingzhi, monkeys have mastered the skills necessary to destroy birds' nests and thus help deter the massive flocks of migratory birds that threaten to, pardon the expression, rain on the parade of Chinese weaponry. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I've been a student of military history my entire life. We have nothing like that capability in the West, nothing like it. So let's bring in trifecta stalwart Scott Ott and sitting in for the lightning fried modem of Steve Green, our friend Stephen Cruiser. Gentlemen, we need to face the facts here. There's a monkey gap and it's getting wider. Steve Cruiser, look, here they come, walking down the street. Now, when Wang Mingzhi tells us that his monkeys are now trained to do what used to be done by shotgun and water cannon, namely destroy birds' nests, I think every American needs to start asking themselves some serious questions. Like, number one, what do we do in response? Is it a question of recruiting key personnel? In other words, how can we have a Wang in this fight?
Bill, not since the Cold War days of mutually assured destruction have I been this nervous about the military future of America. And, you know, when you think about the monkeys available to China right now, and I just want to, as an aside, I want to say, I just recently learned now that the Chinese do not eat monkeys. That's a story I've been telling myself and my children forever. But I think that one of the things we need to do here, we need to look at what old school things we can do. What animals can we employ here? It's easy to build a catapult. I think we go full Monty Python on these people, start loading up catapults with rabbits. When the monkeys come in, start shooting rabbits at the monkeys. And there are far more rabbits here than there are monkeys anywhere, okay? I think that's the only way that we can actually be assured of having any kind of superiority in this animal-on-animal hate fight. I look forward to this new kind of warfare. It's a lot more interesting than the nuclear stuff when you think about it. You know, just bunnies flying through the sky, the monkeys coming in, the sweeping. I think it's different, it's intriguing, and I think we're going to be saved by the bunnies. The bunnies are going to save. The bunnies will give us that Wang in the fight that you want.
Catapulting rabbits to take out incoming Chinese monkeys, it's just so crazy it might work. Now, Scott, it gets worse than that because we have the F-16 Fighting Falcon. It's an amazing jet, but is that any match for what you can see in this image here? What appears to be a 60-meter wide trained Falcon about to pounce on and destroy the puny bomb-laden airliners that are apparently already fitted with anti-monkey barriers. If you go back to the picture, you can see right around the crew compartment there, anti-monkey barriers are enclosing the entire crew compartment on a typically gorgeous, clear blue China afternoon. Now, Scotty, the question I have for you, and don't be afraid to speak plainly here because the hour is late, is can this Sino-Simian monkey gap be closed by maybe a crash program in America's schools? For instance, can millennials be trained to destroy birds' nests so that Madam Clinton's inaugural parade would not be similarly tarnished by, say, I don't know, maybe a vast right-wing conspiracy of squadrons of patriotic bald eagles going full Guantanamo on our first woman president? I mean, you can imagine just how horrible things could be if we don't get this under control.
Well, I think you don't have to go back too far in our history to remember in our parents' own generation when, you know, in their childhood, they could look up at the skies and all they thought about was the beauty of the stars and the music of the spheres and the moon. And then all of a sudden, it was Sputnik. And every time they looked up and saw anything blinking in the sky, they were made intensely aware that the Soviet Union was outpacing us in the development of technology and ultimately the development of nuclear weaponry. And I think the same thing happens now, because my children grew up in an era when you could be out in the woods looking up at the trees, and if you heard like a chittering noise or a howling noise, you would probably just think, oh, it's some squirrel or bird or other sort of mammal. And now what child is going to be able to go outside and play without thinking every time they hear that or something like that? They'll just think it's it's China. They're coming after us. They're prepared, and we're not prepared. So I'm all with Cruiser's plan. I think you've got to go Star Wars on them. You've got to have that kind of defense capability. But I think we also need to be intensely aware that it's going to be very difficult for us to acquire enough monkeys, especially because they come from West Africa, which is a hotbed of Ebola. And maybe that's the underlying Chinese plan, to get us to start importing monkeys so that Ebola will spread throughout the entire country.
I suppose that's the best case scenario. You know, this chimpnik kind of a warning wakes up a sleeping giant and fills him with a terrible resolve. It seems unlikely. Look, my friends, one thing is certain. There's no stopping them. The Chinese guano monkeys will soon be here. And I, for one, welcome our Sino-Simian overlords. I'd like to remind them that as a trusted TV personality, I can be helpful in rounding up others to serve in their underground sugar caves. For PJTV, I'm Bill Whittle.